in a lot of cases, I guess, in the face of an emotional woman, a man becomes silent because we don't have the capacity or the intelligence to sort of decipher that, to sort of make sense of what you're going through, because all we see is emotional crying, angry words and all that. It can be overwhelming for a man. And what you have done as well, I mean, of course, I used to be silent, but I've learned to grow in trying to find out what's really going on, asking the right kind of question, what's really going, can you share what's really happening? Because in a lot of cases, I don't understand. But I think one of the things you have grown quite a bit is that you, even though you go through that whole emotional thing, you've been able to explain things better. You have been able to sort of break it down to bite sizes, as in, okay, this is what I'm going through, this is what happened.
And explain the reason.
When you explain things when you said this, this is how I felt. Those bite sizes help me to process things and say, oh, okay, I get it now. I mean, that was very insensitive. Okay, I get it. It was probably not the most smartest thing to say, or the way I reacted to you. And that helped me a lot. So in a lot of sense, this has been a journey that started 22 years ago, but it's been a journey that you and I have grown.
Yeah, definitely.
You in the way you communicate, in the way you sort of explain things to me, and the way you sort of clarify things. And me in the way I've learned to understand that your emotions is not craziness. Your emotions is really things deep inside just being brought out. And empathizing with you and understanding that, the pain that you feel inside was finding an outlet to express itself. And of course, over time, you've been much more skillful in the way you express it. I've been more skillful in the way I understood things as well. So today we are still married 22 years later.
You see, conflict was, I think, between the both of us, the conflict and the quarrels that we had, and it was quarrels and disagreements in the early years. Now, in hindsight, we can look back and we can see that it was actually an invitation to grow deeper.
Absolutely.
And to grow stronger. And one of the biggest takeaways from our own marriage was I realized that I had to change the way I would communicate things with you. It could not be irrational and emotional. Even though I was feeling all of those feelings, it was still my responsibility to be able to understand and process through my emotions first, and filter through it and refine it. So either I'm talking to a friend, or I'm processing it, I'm taking out some time, reflective time, to just understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And I think what worked brilliantly with us was, and I think in general as women, is when we're trying to communicate something to a man, the first instinct is to present everything that's emotional. But a man doesn't process things emotionally. You reason through things very logical. And that's a gift. It's not a bad thing. It's a strength that a man carries, to see things from a very different perspective. And so the best way to communicate, and I realized, was to be able, as you said, not only just break it down to bite-sized pieces. That's not to sort of dismiss your intelligence, but the explanation came from a place of vulnerability. It was not accusatory. It was not blaming. It was not saying you did this to me. It was presenting facts. It was presenting information, and then explaining it to you why I felt this way. And you could accept that and receive that, because, and that's generally most men, that they can hear emotion. It's not that they're daft and that it's impossible for them, or they're so, it's impossible, numb to understand and feel emotion. But as long as I brought the facts, and I brought the information, and I brought the explanation and the feelings behind it, and made my request known to you, you would hear it. And sometimes, for a woman, I think, to communicate, and she would say to me, I've heard this over and over, like, Priscilla, I've done all of that. I've explained those emotions, but how have you done it? Because the posture of the heart behind it, it's not just changing the tone of voice. It's not sitting over a dinner table and explaining these things. But if your heart is resentful and And as a woman, you see this already like it's the man's fault. No matter how much you try to change and adapt, it is going to come out.
Yeah.
It is going to be heard in your emotions. And that was the breakthrough for the both of us, and just being able to explain it from a place where I could reason. This was the information, this was what's going on, this was how I felt.
Yeah.
And that was received by you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the huge difference was the early days when you were going through your whole anger and when you're upset. It was always very accusatory. It's always like, it's you did this, it's your fault, because of you, and so on. So what I'm hearing is it's all my fault, when in fact I'm not even sure what happened.
Yeah.
So the early days was all about accusatory, but what you've grown into over the years is that you started to explain it differently. It's like, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is what's going on inside of me. This is how I feel. And when you started to come from that manner, I started to see what was going inside of you.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you're accusing me. I just started to empathize with the fact that you're feeling some kind of pain and hurt inside. And that helps me to feel your emotions and start to feel empathy and concern for you. I always tell men this, I mean, and I think this is important for all of us. When I speak to men, I say, listen, conflict in marriage and relationships, don't run from it.
That's a good
I always tell them, listen, face it. When your wife is going through that time, face it, be there, be calm, face it, don't run.
Yeah.
Because very often we go silent because we can't seem to process it. We are just there and we're wondering, okay, what's going on? But if we can just stay there, keep ourselves calm, and have the ability to look beyond the emotions, we will come to a place where we are able to understand what's going on the deeper. And that is a bit of an intelligence to grow into.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely possible for men to grow into. It's absolutely something that we can all, it's a skill that we can all understand, so to speak. Absolutely. If you can just start to see that, hey, listen, the reason she's feeling all of this, the anger, the crying, the wailing, all of that, is because there's deep hurt. And we can look beyond that emotion and see where her heart is. Quite often we can actually relate to her in that manner.
That's so good,
and that's something I learned to do. I learned to look beyond your emotions and understand, hey, listen, it's just someone who's just hurting.
That's a good, and
she's just hurting.
And I think for us as women to understand that, I think very often we can make a man look like he's failing us. Yeah,
we men feel that very easily. And the feeling of I'm a failure, I failed in this is something that speaks very loudly to us. And we can so easily fall into that pit. It's like, I don't measure up, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. All that just messes up a man big time. And it's a pit that we should not easily fall into.
Yeah.
If we can start to just hold ourselves together, listen, okay, I may not be up to it right now, but I can get there. It's a skill I can grow into. It's not over till it's over. I can grow in this, and every one of us as men can grow into it.
Yeah.
We do not need to be afraid of conflicts and disagreements in every marriage.
Yeah.
Conflicts is a window to what's really going on inside of us.
Yeah, that's so true, and that brings me to the time when I first met you, and the most attractive thing about you was that you were not trying to. You held yourself really well, and you took your time to sort of to get to know me from a distance, and you know, in that sense, it tells a lot about a man because he knows where he's measured, where he is. He's not overcompensating himself. He's not trying to be this defiant or aggressive man or this I know everything kind of man, but you really were measured in the way you sort of approached me, and you took your time. And I remember the time that when I first met you, there was another guy who was also interested in me, and he was just falling.
I didn't know that.
It was.
Now you tell me after 22 years?
I was quite attractive back then. Yeah. But yes, you were measured and you held yourself together, and that's the most attractive. You had no chance, and that was very attractive about you.
Yeah, I never gave in. Yeah. one thing I can say with men is do not try to appease all the time. Sometimes we fall into that trap of saying, listen, I need to fight for peace at all costs. No, we're not called to be Mr. Nice Guy.
I think that's controversial, but that's such good advice.
I'm not called to be a Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not called to just agree with my wife in everything, because if you do that, you miss the opportunity for both of us to grow.
Yeah.
It's not just you need to grow, she needs to grow too. She's not right all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not right all the time.
Yeah.
And it's an area that we can all grow into. So when you are willing to get into a conflict and sometimes even hold your ground, and if you feel you're right and hold your ground and explain yourself enough, both parties can grow.
Yeah.
Because quite often a man is like, I need to fight for peace, I need to do whatever it takes to make sure she is calm and she's peaceful. Listen, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point of a conflict is quite often to understand each other, but at the same time put forward your case in a nice manner. Put forward to why do you feel this way. Even a man needs to do that. This is how I feel, this is what I think is right to do it this way. And we have to do that because both parties need to grow.
Yeah, that's right.
If you don't do that, she will miss an opportunity to grow.
Oh, that's a good one.
She will be the same she was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
How she was 20 years ago, 20 years later.
Yeah.
Because you've not given her the opportunity to grow. You've not challenged her enough. You've not helped her see the other point of view as well.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's a disaster for any marriage.
Absolutely.
Because 20 years later, you're going to be upset. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be disappointed thinking, she doesn't understand me. I'm constantly the one who's giving in. I'm constantly trying to make sure that everything's peaceful. She, on the other hand, gets away all the time. And that's a disaster. I think in any marriage.
The key takeaway is that fact that
I respect you for who you are today. It was not early in the early days. You had areas that you needed to work on as well. But what is important is that you worked on it. You fought whatever you needed to fight. All the ghosts of your past. You needed to come to a place where you understood yourself first. All the struggles you had, all the issues that maybe you had growing up years, and you sat and worked on it. And I had to do the same. I think the fact that we both worked on ourselves has made us look a lot more, I think, attractive to each other. So sometimes people are like telling us, hey, listen, your son is going to live in a year's time. It's going to just be the two of you, right? It's just the two of you. I'm like, yeah, you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Some say, oh, the whole empty nest syndrome, what are you guys going to do? We do a lot of things together.
Yeah, that's true.
We go for hikes together, we go for walks together. We can go for a meal and talk for hours.
Yeah.
And that's an indication of a marriage that can last.
That's true.
That we can actually enjoy each other. We are friends. We can have fun together. We can still poke fun at each other, and we can still have a good laugh.
So
I think that's massive.
So you definitely cannot live without me, right?
Absolutely.
And you want me to say I'm a better therapist because of you, right?
Absolutely. I'm a better man because of you as well. So it's both ways.